There are three main questions that a persuasive speech tries to respond to as it works toward influencing an audience's attitudes or behaviors. Now, every persuasive speech is likely to deal with each one of these types of questions. However, most often, one of the types of questions provides the main focus for the speech. The first type of question that we want to look at is a question of fact. Now, when I say we're addressing a question of fact, it doesn't necessarily mean that something is established as a fact, but a question of fact deals with something that can be determined as being a fact or not. So these are questions that ask whether something exists, whether something occurred, whether it will or will not occur, is it true or not. It also looks at cause-effect relationships. Those would be considered questions of fact. When we're addressing a question of fact, what we're really trying to influence is beliefs. We aren't working so much toward action, we're looking at what people believe, and so we're trying to address this question of fact. What is true? What has occurred? What will occur? Those kinds of things all relate to beliefs and our ability to influence those beliefs. An example of questions of fact goes back to last spring. If you think about when the Malaysian Airlines plane disappeared, there were lots of questions, and there remain lots of questions of fact related to that plane disappearance. What happened? Where is it? That kind of thing all represents a question of fact. We can also take a question of fact and make it the center of our persuasive speech. For example, if I wanted to have a thesis that said a cap-and-trade system would decrease global warming, this is a question of fact, and it relates to whether or not a cap-and-trade system would be able to regulate carbon emissions in a way that decreases carbon emissions' impact on global warming. This is something I can spend a speech trying to influence my audience's belief system about, that cap and trade could actually decrease the human impacts of global warming.